Hello there, fans of literature. Walter Bowne here, talking about the Crucible. So you've started the Crucible, or you're going to be starting the Crucible if you're out there. And we're talking Arthur Miller, who wrote this 1950s during the height of the communist witch trials. And we're going to be talking a lot about the parallels between McCarthyism and the 1950s and the hysteria and the paranoia that we're going to be taken over by communists, the Red Menace. And he came away from the McCarthy trials as a person who was called before the trials as a suspected communist and said, you know what, this seems very similar to 1692 Salem, Massachusetts, and how people were accused of being witches who weren't really witches. And it allowed people to point the finger at people they didn't like, have them jailed, and maybe even executed. You would be hung. You wouldn't be burned. They didn't burn witches in Salem, Massachusetts. All right? They would hang them. They wouldn't hang them if they confessed to being a witch. Then you're fine because Christian forgiveness. So we're dealing with 70 years after the Mayflower, 1620. The Mayflower Compact, we studied William Bradford. So we're not talking that many years, many generations, 1692 to 93. In fact, most of the witches, Salem was the courthouse, was the court. Really, it was in this place called Danvers. It's about 30 miles northeast of Boston, a beautiful place to get to. And so let me set the scene here. We're talking the same type of atmosphere as, say, Nathaniel Hawthorne's The Scarlet Letter or Young Goodman Brown, where the woods, the forest was seen as the reign of the devil, and the town held God, right? So in Scarlet Letter, we have Dimmesdale as being a nice minister. In the Crucible, we have a very, very, very nasty minister named Reverend Paris. All right, we still have a lot of mean kids who used to pick on Pearl. If you read Scarlet Letter, they picked on Pearl constantly. We still have all those mean girls. This whole book, this whole play, is about mean girls and the head mean girl, Abigail, who uses her power to get back at people who have criticized her and abused her. All right, so Arthur Miller plays with some facts, and we'll talk about what he changes and what was actually real, but you need to know that 19 innocent people did die in Salem, Massachusetts, right? And none of them were witches. There was no evidence of witchcraft whatsoever in Salem, Massachusetts. It was just the hysteria. It was, oh my goodness, this is happening. Oh my goodness, the communists. Oh my goodness, SARS. We're all going to die kind of thing. Because they believed that once the devil took root, the actual devil, not just the theoretical devil or a metaphorical or symbolic devil, but the actual devil was going to take control of a soul. And once he has one soul, it's like a virus. Virus, right? It will contaminate everybody. And so it's up to the minister who comes in, this Reverend Hale, to investigate whether or not there's any demon possession. Now, a lot of this stuff, Arthur Miller's playing these people actually did exist. Goody Nurse was a character. Goody means Mrs. Goodman, like Goodman Brown, means Mr. Okay? And there are a lot of characters here. Giles Corey was an actual character. Proctor, an actual character. Now, he was a tavern owner, not a farmer, but Arthur Miller is a playwright. He's not a historian, right? We'll look at the actual history, but we'll also enjoy looking and reading this drama that talks a lot about politics, about media, in a way, and about hysteria, and how smart people can be killed by the dumb people. Or let me put an active voice, how the stupid people can kill the smart people. And it's not logic that prevails oftentimes in society. It is people that are the crazy people who actually make the laws and execute the innocent. Right, so Arthur Miller, of course, sees himself and many of his friends in the 1950s with the Blacklist and the Hollywood 10 as people are like, listen, I dabbled with some socialism in the 1920s and 30s. A lot of people did. We had the Great Depression. Capitalism was, not doing so well. But really, that was 1920s, 1930s, and I wasn't even a member of the Communist Party. And even if I was, this is America. Can I be what party I want to? Not during the 1950s, all right? We were really afraid of the communists. We were fighting wars with the Cold War, in Korea. Of course, we're going to be fighting in Vietnam and all these different places. So we're going to be looking at the spread of communism. We're going to be looking at movies from the 1950s, like It Came from Outer Space or Invasion of the Body Snatchers. All these famous movies from the 1950s were all parallels about communist infiltration, that we're all going to be taking over and become mindless zombies. I'm not making this stuff up. But Arthur Miller says, fear doesn't travel well, right? We look back on 1692, 93, when the Salem witch trials happened, and think that was ridiculous. Why would they be so scared of that? And then we look back in the 1950s, why would they be so scared of communists? Well, this was the second Red Scare. If you know your history, you know there's a first Red Scare, Sacco and Vanzetti, and all that stuff on about unions. And probably in 30 years from now, I'll be like, why was everyone buying toilet paper, right? We have our own hysteria. It's serious, right? Coronavirus is a real thing, not witches, right? Not like communist infiltration, but communism was a fear, though. It was a fear. And we'll look at the ideology of communism. It was, to move to countries, and we can look at the countries it moved to, and where communism still exists in theory, but not really. But those things there was a reality to it, but it was just so blown up, right? So people overreact even today. I'm like, oh my God, I can't even, like look at somebody, or I'm gonna get coronavirus, or I have to go buy the whole shop of, hand sanitizer or toilet paper. So there's this overreaction, right? And is the remedy, with the witch trials, it was like, this is ridiculous, right? So there's a lot of characters, keep them together, and it's a lot of fun. And the play, well, it's a lot of fun. It's not that much fun. It's fun to read because there's a lot of action and a lot of things that happen. And a lot of times you'll get really, really pissed off because there's some really smart people who really make some really bad decisions. And then when they try to change the behavior, change the direction they started this in, once you get something going in motion, it's almost impossible to stop, right? So if you have any questions, of course, I'm always available. And take care. And let me go back to my tea. Bye-bye.